Welcome to this Friday evening edition of the Riley King Network Investigates Tragic Beauty. And here now is your host of the Riley King Network Investigates, Riley King. Good happy Friday evening, February 5th, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Friday evening edition of the Riley King Network Investigates Tragic Beauty. When cameras were off, Anna Nicole Smith was still Vicky Lynn, friends say. Before she was an icon, she was a girl from a small town in Texas. Let's begin tonight's edition of the Riley King Network Investigates right now. When the cameras were off, Anna Nicole Smith was still Vicky Lynn, friends say. Before she was an icon, she was a girl from a small town in Texas. To the world, Anna Nicole Smith was a glamorous blonde Hollywood bombshell, but those who knew her best say she warred privately with the public ridicule about her relationship, prescription drug use, and weight. An exclusive new interview, the father of her daughter and 2020 consultant Larry Burkhead spoke with 2020 about the other side of Smith that he got to witness. When you talk about Anna Nicole and you talk about where she came from, you talk about the court battles, he said. In between there were a lot of happy moments of her life. There was a lot of highs before there was a lot of lows. As of one of her best friends, Frankie Rodriguez, said, it was as if she were two people. The serene who married an 89-year-old billionaire and the shy, naive, small-town girl from Texas desperately working to support her son and making something of herself. There was Vicky Lynn Marshall and Anna Nicole Smith, he told 2020. Any kind of camera, you just yelled out her name, Anna Nicole. When she turned around, it was on spot, and you saw Anna Nicole. The minute that camera left, it was a whole other person. She was back to Vicky Lynn, he said. I am very fortunate to have met and gotten to know Vicky Lynn. How she did it, I don't know. But whoever she was doing it was making everybody watch. Those who truly loved her saw her as she truly was. They remember how she bravely fought to support her family and prove that she loved her husband and deserved a part of his fortune. They saw her private effort to navigate countless medical and legal troubles, moments in which she showed that Vicky Lynn continued to live on in Anna Nicole Smith. Smith's life in the hometown she escaped. Smith was born Vicky Lynn Horgan outside of Houston. Her childhood best friend Joe McClure remembered Smith's mother as very strange. Vicky's childhood life was tough, McClure said. Her mother was very forthright and very strict. At 15 years old, Smith was sent to live with her aunt in Maxia, Texas, a tiny town of about 7,000 people. I remember when I dated Anna Nicole, and she'd always talk about Maxia, Texas. She always wanted to get out of there, Burkhead told 2020. McLemore remembered that Smith attended Maxia High School until she dropped out in the 10th grade. When she went to school here in Maxia, she was miserable, McLemore said. She was having a hard time with being bullied. At that point, I think, after all she'd been through, just all the struggles in her life, she finally fed up. McLemore remembered hanging out with Smith on the side of the local roads. There was nothing else to do here, she said, laughing. There's no movie theaters. I mean, there wasn't Starbucks or anything. Basically, the main place to eat was Crispy's. McLemore had been working at Jim Crispy Fried Chicken. She said Smith would come in every day. She'd order a large drink, but she always looked really sad to me, McLemore said. When she started working here, we immediately hit it off. One of the memories I have of her is we'd sit here together and stare out the window and just watch traffic go by. She was perfect to me, perfect face, and I would tell her, "You are so, so pretty," McLemore said. Smith started dating the fry cook at the restaurant, Billy Smith, and before long they were married, making her Vicky Smith, McLemore said. Billy was also a high school dropout, she said. They were so young. He was 16, she was 17. Smith had her first child, Danielle, at 18. Smith dances in Houston. By the time Anna Nicole was 19, Billy Smith was out of the picture. In 1986, she brought her infant son to Houston with no high school degree or work skills to speak of. She worked for a while at Walmart and Red Lobster, then decided to try a different direction. To provide for Danielle, who was living with her mother, Smith worked hard as a dancer at a strip club, where she made a name of herself. She began to undergo breast surgeries to enhance her figure. In 1991, 86-year-old J. Howard Marshall II, a billionaire from his investment in Kuwait industry, came into her club. His wife had passed away, and Lady Walker, a flame-bought exotic dancer with whom he had a 10-year relationship, had also died. He had no will to live, and I went over to see him, Smith said in an interview with 2020 in 2000. He got a little twinkle in his eyes, and he asked me to dance for him, and I did. She said Marshall was really, really funny and brilliant. Gosh, he had so many stories, she said. He was just an amazing man. He was just really amazing. She would call him her Serge Booger and Sweet heart and all that, McLemore said. They needed each other in more of the sense than people understood, and so they just took care of each other. Marshall proposed to Smith, but she declined instantly that she wanted to make her own way. He brought her millions in jewelry, a ranch and horses, a red Mercedes convertible, and breast surgery. He proposed rapidly, including once at his favorite restaurant, Red Lobster. She continued to say no, saying she wanted to be able to support herself before she remarried. Smith becomes international star. A friend sent photos of Smith to a scout for Playboy, who hired her for a publication, McLemore said. McLemore didn't believe it at first. But around 1992, my uncle called me, who lived here, and said, "Smith made Playboy," she said. I was like, "What?" He said she made Playboy, and I said she did not. And he said, yes, I promise. Get the magazine." She felt dueling emotions about her friend's success. "I was kind of weirded out," McLemore said. "I was proud of her, but I was like, she's up here now, and I'm down here. I'm a little person now, I think is what I was feeling." Smith was photographed for Guess Jeans ads and became internationally recognized as she started modeling abroad. After numerous Playboy appearances, she was named Playmate of the Year in 1993. She started modeling overseas and was signed with William Morris, one of Hollywood's biggest talent agencies. She even appeared in movies The Hudsucker Proxy and Naked Gun 33-1/3. She later worked with filmmaker Ray Martineau in the movie To the Limit in 1995, where she played a CIA double agent in Skyscraper in 1996. Meanwhile, Smith's implant kept her in constant pain, Martineau said. Her back wasn't strong enough to carry them, and so the doctors started to give her pain medication, he said. Smith said she was taking prescription drugs for migraines and anesthesia. "I had Votigan and Exioncan. Those are prescription drugs that I have to take," she said in 1994. "I mean, I don't consider that hard drugs. It doesn't make me high. I've been taking it for years. It just helps my headaches." In 1994, she decided to marry Marshall. At the wedding, her son was a ring bearer, and Marshall voiced a desire to adopt him. It was never about the money, and she loved this man. Martineau said she would sit close to him with her legs on the couch over him, and he would laugh, and they were as happy and competitive with each other as two people could be. But their marriage and their 63-year age difference became a punchline across pop culture. After only 6 months, Marshall fell ill. We were in the middle of a shooting in Las Vegas, and she flew down to be with him. Martineau said she loved him, really loved him so much. But Marshall's son, Prince Marshall, restricted Smith's access to her husband as he was dying. He also cut her off financially. In 1995, Martineau remembered breaking news of Marshall's death to Smith in New York. I said, "Howard passed away." He remembered. She just bowed her head and started crying. "After my husband passed, it was really, really hard on me," Smith told 2020 in 2000. "He knew me when I was nobody, and that's what people don't understand. And I don't want to be called a gold digger, because I'm not. I could have married him a week after we met, or 2 weeks after we met. I could have married him years before, and I didn't. I went out and I made something of myself." After her husband's death, Smith finds love again. Marshall's death spurred years of and the court battles between the widow and Marshall's son. First, they went to court, debating what to do with his remains. When Marshall was cremated, his ashes were divided between his widows and his son, and they each held separate funerals. Marshall bequeathed the entirety of his estate to his son, without a cent given to Smith. She took Prince Marshall to court to get her share. It was a dark time for Smith. She and Will Morris had also parted ways, and things weren't going well for her, Martineau said. Her career was just basically at a standstill, with Frank Rodriguez, a friend she made around this same time. She wasn't doing anything, and she was trying to find her next big thing. At this point, Smith was getting treatment for substance abuse. She was legally prescribed an array of medicine to address everything from migraines to stomach problems and back pain from the implants to seizures. The media let into her for her drug use, but also viciously in their attacks about her weight. It's hard, I went through a lot. People, when I gained a lot of weight, people thought I was just like partying, doing this and that, she said in 2000. I'm having seizures. I'm having panic attacks. My husband just died, and people think I don't care. Against the advice of her friends, Smith agreed to star in a reality show that, at the time, had the highest ratings ever on E!, the best debut for cable reality series, and the second best debut for an original series on basic cable. By the second season, however, audience stopped tuning in. After an onslaught of negative attention, Rodriguez said she kind of disappeared. She was out of the spotlight. Sponsors by weight loss brand Trim Spa. She lost 69 pounds, Rodriguez said. It was kind of a freshness for her. She was back, bigger and larger than life, he said. She couldn't be more happier at the time. That was also around the time she started dating Larry Birkhead. The first time that I ever encountered Anna was in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, working at the Kentucky Derby. I was working as a photographer, Birkhead said. I looked at her and I said, there's something about her. She's just beautiful. So I talked to her. I interacted with her and we exchanged this kiss. Rodriguez said she was really smitten with Birkhead, who said he felt like he'd seen a different side of Smith when he photographed her at the Children's Camp charity event. I got to kind of witness Anna hanging out with the kids, he said. It was a stripped-down version of this small Texas girl that I really appreciated. Birkhead said he soon had his bags packed, ready to live at Smith's home. She lived with her son, her assistant, and her attorney, Howard K. Stern, who also acted as somewhat of a manager and publicist, Birkhead said. Before long, Smith became pregnant with her second child. Birkhead said that's when Smith suddenly began to push him away. She actually told me that she was pregnant and that Larry was the father. She'd love him, Rodriguez said. She was very happy with him. I don't know what happened. I don't know how it got to where it got. Smith whisked away to Bahamas. Smith and Stern moved to the Bahamas for a last part of her pregnancy. Her and I were actually had communication when she was in the Bahamas, Rodriguez said. The conversation would happen in the middle of the night. I don't know if she was doing it because she didn't want Howard to hear. On September 7th, 2006, she gave birth to a daughter, Danny Lynn, with Stern at her side. 2 days later, she was joined in the hospital by her son Daniel as she recovered. Smith woke up with Daniel had fallen asleep next to her, but then realized her son had died. Though his cause of death was determined to be a drug overdose, the question of where he got one of the drugs is still unanswered. Daniel actually had a prescription for Laxapro, and he was taking Zephyr because he was anxious about his flight. Smith had been taking methadone for years, but it's not clear if he secretly took it from her. Martino said Daniel's death devastated Anna Nicole. Having a beauty of this birth of a baby, and then the loss of your love, your son, in the same bed, he said. She just started to mentally started to cave in. Smith's final days. While in the Bahamas, Smith met a local couple and found some peace going out on their boat. We would take people out fishing. Then one day, a guy came and said, "Why don't you take Anna Nicole fishing?" Never Nevernine said from then on, she decided to call King Eric Daddy and called me Mommy. And then they were just part of the family. Burkhead said Smith saw Nevernine as a motherly figure because she was calming and spiritual. She was attracted to families because she didn't have that, Martino said. Nevernine remembers Smith loving being on the boat. She was totally different. She was just being free, she said. Smith loved it so much she looked into buying her own boat. She found one in Florida and left with Stern and others to pick it up. It would be the last time she saw her baby. Before she left, Smith was given a shot of human growth hormone and vitamin B12 in her left side, which she had been taking to maintain her weight. But during the flight, her side started to hurt, and by the time she reached the hotel, she was very ill, with a fever of 105 degrees. Although the people with her urged her to go to the hospital, she refused. Burkhead said he wasn't surprised she wasn't taken to the hospital. She was scared, he said. The press would find out she was there and turn it into a big headline, and she didn't want. Over the next few days, she was sick and listless. She had a visible infection. And then on the morning of February 8th, 2007, she could barely stand. Never remembered Stern had to help her to the bathroom. Stern left a few hours later to keep the appointment to check out the boat. Anna hoped to buy the reason for the trip to Florida. I walked over and I realized there was something wrong with Anna, Nevernine said. There was definitely something wrong. She looked like she was sleeping, but I saw that she wasn't sleeping, but realized she wasn't breathing. There was no chest movement, and then it all exploded. Nevernine told the wife of Smith's bodyguard to call 911, but instead she called her husband, who called Stern. As this was happening, the bodyguard's wife tried to restrict Smith. Eventually, the bodyguard, Marcus Breiter, arrived at the hotel and called 911, but 38 minutes had passed. Emergency workers arrived and tried to revive her at the scene. I started getting a little bit emotional, and I just started screaming her name, Bertrip said. I asked her, I said, baby girl, if you've got anything in you, please come back. Danny Lynn needs you. I said, forget it. I need you. We all need you. She was brought to the hospital, where she was declared dead. Even in death, drama followed Smith. There was an argument about where to bury her, which turned into legal dispute. Although Burkhead and her mother wanted Smith buried in Texas, ultimately a judge ruled that Smith should be buried in the Bahamas next to her son, Daniel, as Stern suggested. Meanwhile, there was an ongoing legal battle over who fathered Smith's daughter. Stern said he and Smith had a relationship, and he was the father. Smith's ex-boyfriend, Mark Hatton, who claimed he gotten her frozen sperm. And Prince Frederick von Anhalt, the fourth husband of Zaz Gorber, also said they might be the father. Eventually, Burkhead's legal team was able to get a sample of the baby's DNA. Burkhead remembers the moment he was determined to be Danny Lynn's biological father. I'm in this Bahamas courtroom. They opened the envelope, and they said that Larry Burkhead is the father. He said, I remember putting my head down in my hands, and for one moment I caught myself looking over my soldier, thinking I was turning to Anna like she was gonna be right there. Burkhead said he picked up Danny Lynn that day after court. She smiled at me, and she was laughing, he said. He said that Stern taught him her routine and how to feed and change her. To this day, Howard has been supportive, Burkhead said, almost as if the same loyalty that he had for Anna has now carried over to me and Danny Lynn. Danny Lynn, she has a big heart like her mom had, he said of his now 14-year-old daughter. 14 years after Smith's death, Rodriguez says it still hurts the same like it was just yesterday. Probably because there's so many unanswered questions. McLemore said she wishes she could go back in time and tell Smith, I love her very much and I miss her. This was a small town girl who went to the Supreme Court twice, a Playboy bunny, a guest model, an actress that came from the sticks of Mexia in Texas. Burkhead said, you couldn't make this up, and it happened. She lived it. She lived it fast, and she lived it big. So, she inspired a lot of people. I think she changed a lot of lives. That's why I think to this day there's still a fiction about Anna Nicole, and I think there will be for a long time. And we will be right back. Okay, and that is it for this Friday evening edition of the Riley King Network Investigates. Thank you for joining us for this Friday evening edition of the Riley King Network Investigates. Have a great rest of your Friday evening, and I'll see you back here next Friday for another edition of the Riley King Network Investigates. Good night and goodbye.